Kia ora, whanau, farming and sovereignty. This is my whanau. It's my wife Serenity and our youngest Te Reo Moriora. There she is there. Our youngest boy Makaya, there he is there. Now our elder boy Te Ngahiru. There's my mum Gloria. My nieces Tashina, Anaka and Brooke. There's Makaya and Te Reo. And then there's Te Reo with her Papa Perry. This is my whanau. This is the start and finish of everything I'm doing and the platform behind which we have the Pātaka Institute for Freedom and Whanau. Helping whanau is what this is about. Kia ora tātou te whanau. Getting in towards March 18th, 2020, we went into a level 4 lockdown in New Zealand due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is on the Sunday the 15th, just prior to then. We were at our Manawaiti Pātaka farm in Te Kuiti, going through our macroeconomics and environmental sciences training programs. You can see me there teaching about cover cropping and macroeconomics, and there's Taniro and Shannon Manawaiti getting ready to set up our carbon cover crops on the 20 hectare block. Obviously, for all of us, we've had a change of circumstances with the COVID-19 situation. It's affected all. Our love and best wishes go to everybody, not only throughout Aotearoa, but around the world, who are having to reassess and rethink where they're going. Kia ora tātou te whānau, nau mai, haere mai. This is my marae opa Rire, my whānau, and we've also had to be rethinking about our marae and lifestyle block farms, how we're going to go about farming them in the future, and obviously our income streams and how we're going to create new jobs into the future. The COVID-19 situation has presented great challenges, but also great opportunities that we look forward to pursuing. Whanau, farming and sovereignty. These three concepts are linked as one through the Pātaka Institute. Whanau, obviously, as we mentioned, are front and centre for me and all of our Pātaka whanau. Our farming operations, how we feed ourselves and how we feed the nation, and sovereignty, the notion of how we most effectively manage sovereign currency operations in Aotearoa. This short course will show how we can link these three together by learning from history and from leadership from the past, particularly around how we work with nature, our natural environment, our farming systems, and how we understand our monetary operations, the financial aspects of operating a sovereign fiat currency. There is a whakapapa to sovereignty. Whakapapa, papa being short for Papa Tuanaku, the Earth Mother. She's the origin of everything. Her and Rangi Nui. Whakapapa is to tie back to an origin and a creation point to follow its development. With sovereignty and establishment of sovereignty, particularly around a sovereign fiat currency and monetary operations, has a sequence, a natural sequence and order, just like working with nature. So we'll look at the whakapapa of sovereignty. Mana Motuhake, leading from sovereignty. Mana Motuhake is our ability to be resilient, our ability to stand on our own feet, to set our own destiny, to work with what has been left for us, to turn that towards our self-reliance, creating a self-governing nation, also most importantly to be able to stand on our own feet, wash our own face, to set our own destiny. This has been no better exemplified in my life and in the history of my whānau than in the kingitanga, represented today by Kingi Tuheitia, Pōtatau Te Whirowhiro Te Tuawhitu, our seventh ariki, and they are his ancestors, our ancestors. They have exemplified mana Motuhake as an example for us all today. Here is our second ariki, Kingi Tāwhia, Tūkaroto Matutaira, Pōtatau Te Whirowhiro. He left a strong vision, and I believe that he was able to see into the future because those kōrero, those thoughts and tongi that he spoke of in his time are most relevant for us in our time. He said, mehe mea kare kawane he whakakitenga, kamate te iwi. Without vision, the people will perish. He left a tongikura, mana Motuhake. Through this kōrero, mākua no hei hanga I tōku nei whare, I shall fashion my own house. Ko ngā paupau, he māhue, he pātete, ko te tāhuhu, he hino. The ridgepole will be of hino, the supporting posts of māhue and pātete. Me whakatupu ki te hua o te ringaringa, me whakapari ki te hua o te kawariki. Those who inhabit the house shall be raised on ringaringa and nurtured on kawariki. Mākua no te hanga I tōku nei whare, I shall fashion my own house. The support posts of māhue, pātete, and the ridge post of hina. The people will be raised on the fruits of the ringaringa and nurtured on the fruits of the kawariki. What Kingi Tāwhia was teaching us then, which is relevant now, is that our only limitation for our development, our mana Motuhake, our self-reliance, are the natural resources that we have available to us and our abilities to be able to fashion those to create the goods and services and the standard of living that we can leave for our children. He was teaching a clear message that this is the only restriction. We'll learn later how he comprehended and understood the financial administration of an economy where there are no financial limitations through a sovereign fiat currency. The only limitations are the natural resources and the skills that we have to be able to fashion those to our purposes. Kingi Tāwhia also represented the original term Māori. Back on our website, our short course there, the original term Māori, you can view in the Māori dictionary that there is an original term and a more modern term adapted since European settlement in Aotearoa. The Pātaka Institute harkens to the original term Māori. As you'll see, it means natural, normal, freely, without restraint, clear, intelligible. We hope that the short courses and the programs that we present exemplify this notion of the original term Māori as set forth, and I believe lived in true life by our ariki and since him. So, this is how we're striving to live that vision. Here is the Manawaiti Pātaka farm in Te Kuiti. No mai hare mai. There's Tanirau and Shannon establishing our carbon crop covers over their 20-hectare tri-stock block in Te Kuiti. No mai, hare mai. The program that Anito and Shannon are establishing is our particular program around carbon farming, more specifically soil carbon farming. This is about sequestering carbon from the atmosphere back into the topsoils of our farms. Working with nature to be able to restore the quality and integrity of our topsoils to make our farming operations more productive and also more sustainable. There's a lot of talk these days about planting pine trees and forests to sequester carbon. Well, frankly, we don't have 20 to 30 years to wait around for our farm to raise its productivity. Also, those options aren't suitable for our cows. They don't eat pine trees. Instead, we're sequestering carbon into the topsoil to make our farms more productive, not to retire the land for forestry. So this is how Tanito and Shannon are going about doing this on their block. We plant cover crops which sequester carbon from the atmosphere. These include pea shoots, which are fantastic for nitrogen fixation, barley and oats that have long root systems to be able to sequester carbon back down deep into the topsoil. So here's our Pātaka carbon crops. They're pea shoots, barley and oats. So they grow as small seedlings in the very pasture that our stock is grazing. As a result of the carbon crops, we can see the soil profile grows and improves. A normal farm may have 10 to 200 mil of humus layer or organic material. We're able to get over 1 metre of topsoil humus layer organic material driven down deep into the soil. What this does for the productivity of a farm and its ability to retain water and its ability to retain nutrition for stock without runoff into rivers is much, much more effective in current systems. So carbon is sequestered through photosynthesis back into the soil column, combined with the nitrogen cycle. In the cover crops there, you can see pea shoots, even tillage radish that has a deep root structure, driving like a jackhammer back down into the soil, that carbon content. Barley, oats, so forth. Carbon continues to be sequestered as the stock graze on these new carbon crops. The roots get deeper and deeper, sequestering more and more carbon, up to down towards 1 metre. When our stock are able to graze the new crops, they're able to retain nutrition and gain condition much, much more effectively than the normal ryegrass options that are common throughout Aotearoa. As we sequester carbon back into the topsoil, other important factors are impacted as well. We've done a lot of riparian zoning in New Zealand. There's a lot of talk about this. In my view, this is basically window dressing. The real riparian zone is way back at the source, in the topsoil. If we're able to sequester more carbon into the topsoil and raise the organic material of the topsoil and improve the structure, then there's less chance of nitrates and other runoffs even getting to the rivers and waterways in the first place. It's about going back to nature, back to the source, and remediating at the source, but turning that into productive purposes so it's sustainable. To the point now where we're extending the Pātaka 20 for 20 challenge to our farmer mates. Pātaka 20 for 20 per hectare per annum. 20 tonne of extra dry matter forage per hectare per annum. 20 carbon credits per hectare per annum. That's about 20 tonne per hectare per annum of carbon. Increased water storage. A lot of talk around the country around water storage. This is where you need to store it, back into the topsoil itself. It is able to improve drought resistance even prior to droughts being onset. No fertiliser now because we're sequestering carbon, running the nitrogen cycle much more effectively, which means we don't have to put any artificial fertilisers on. We've been operating chemical-based farming for the last 100 years and neglected biology. It's time to go back to biology and nature. Because the soil structure is so strong, we get less runoff and less pollution, nitrate runoff in the first place. We've got mates from overseas who are doing this already. Here's our cousin Niels Olsen from Gippsland in Melbourne. Neil has invented a fantastic technology to enable us to do this on a large scale called the Soil Care Innovator. So Niels runs a 100 hectare dairy block in Melbourne. He's been working on this for years. In the last 5 years, his results are staggering. Through the Soil Care Innovator, we're able to plant a hectare per hour of these soil carbon cover crops. You'll see Tani though there holding a shovel. He's probably just holding it, but we're definitely not using it to plant cover crops. There's a much more effective way of doing this, and the soil care is a great system. So, kia ora to the cuz from over in Aussie. Kia ora, Niels. So there's our challenge. Now, where has this come from, whānau? Where did we get these whakaaro from? We can say that the Pātaka Institute has not invented any of this. All of this is in our history. All of this came from the whakaaro of our ariki. As he taught us in his time, our ability to work with nature, to live the true original meaning, Māori, natural, normal, freely, unrestrained, clear and intelligible. We hope that our short programs, courses here, and the technologies that we're presenting to you, the results we're presenting to you, are an embodiment of that whakaaro. Living that true meaning, original term. Well, it all sounds bloody good. How do we pay for all of this? Well, Kenny Tawhia had that answer in mind as well. Not only was he working with nature and encouraging us all to turn to nature in Māori, he also established the financial system to effectively run this as well. This whakaaro now in modern times basically means this: anything we can do, we can afford. To afford it is just to be able to do it, meaning that anything within nature that's available for us, that is the only restriction. There are no financial limitations on us if our nation operates a sovereign fiat currency. Now let's look at King Tawhia's lesson in how you establish a fiat currency, but more importantly, how we can use our current one here in New Zealand much, much more effectively. Prior to King Tawhia's ascension to the throne, between 1846 and 1857, they operated within the Waikato here around 14 flour mills, exporting around 13 to 16,000 pounds worth of flour through the Onehunga ports in Auckland, off to Australia and further abroad. then resulting from the land confiscations in the 1860s, King Tawhia noticed how the British settlers operated their fiat currency, their sovereign currency. He learned from an example to be able to establish his own sovereign fiat currency, which was not fixed on any standards such as gold or any other commodity. And he established his own trading bank called Te Peke or Aotearoa. Here is one of his kotahi Pauna or £1 notes issued by his bank. More importantly, this is also a sovereign fiat currency. Fiat meaning it can be anything that the currency setter sets it to be. So in 1886 he established this for this purpose of mana Motuhake, for the people of the land to be able to set in place their own destiny. He recognised that they needed a strong financial system to be able to support them in developing the natural resources. The first step, though, to provision this nation, or provision that state at the time that he was governing, he needed to create buyers and sellers of goods and services. And he understood from studying other sovereign currencies how this can be achieved. The important thing here was to provision the state by creating buyers and sellers of goods and services who are working towards this common cause to be able to raise standards of living. And there's a whakapapa and a sequence to do that. He recognised that taxation is a much more powerful tool than spending and changing behaviour. Then he recognised by issuing his sovereign currency as the only acceptable tax credit, meaning the only thing that can be used in payment of taxes, he is able to establish this nation that he was organising and creating buyers and sellers of goods and services. So the sovereign currency is the only tax credit, the thing used in payment of taxes. By a short course back at the site, Taxes Don't Pay for Anything, you'll learn more about the operating of a tax system, what taxes are used for and what they're not used for. The main point is that they are not used to fund public expenditure or government expenditure. They are used to create a value in the currency by setting them as a tax credit to pay a tax liability. That's what ties the community and the society together in that common purpose and to create buyers and sellers of goods and services. Tax levies need to be established first to create a tax liability. King Tawhia knew this clearly. The tax levies he set were coercive and mandatory, and they included taxes on men, women and children, in effect like a modern day income tax, property and stock tax, and even a dog tax. All these items were important to society, so he understood that setting in place a tax liability tied the people to that currency so it can be used as a tax credit. Again, not used to fund public expenditure. So coercive and mandatory, and it establishes a public or collective purpose, in effect like our modern day public sector or government sector. So here is the whakapapa of sovereignty. Firstly, the sovereign or the government levies the tax first. Then, once the tax is levied, people are then looking for work to create products and services in payment of those taxes. Then the government issues the currency, in this case the New Zealand dollar here in modern times, as the tax credit. Sovereign levies the tax first, then issues the tax credit in payment of those taxes. You can learn more about that back on the website as well. And taxes don't pay for anything. What King Tawhia was teaching us is government is not at all like us, ourselves as individuals or households or businesses. The government is the sovereign fiat currency issuer, meaning that it sets the price and it's the monopoly. It does not manage a budget like you and I do. It manages an economy. It has no financial limitations because it is the currency issuer. So government is not like us, a household or a business. Here's the difference. Central government is the currency issuer, the source of the currency. We are currency users. It is a monopoly, meaning it is the only currency issuer, whereas we are many individuals, families, businesses, local government. The central government must spend the dollars first to enable us access to those dollars, to earn them in service in the community, buying and selling goods and services, producing goods and services. We earn those dollars to pay tax and then able to spend or save the rest. This ties us to that currency. Central government balances the economy. We, on the other hand, balance our budget. A budget means that you have a limited income stream, so you must assign and prioritise what you're going to spend on. The government operating a sovereign fiat currency does not have that issue. Its role is to balance the economy. In effect, it's the dollar's scorekeeper. It doesn't need dollars. It issues the dollars. Therefore, central government can never go broke. On the other hand, we have to manage a budget, and our income streams are limited. These clear differences are commonly misunderstood in modern times. But Kingi Tawhiao's lesson is to hearken us back to understanding the clear difference between a currency issuer and a currency user. In 1886, he established Te Pēke o Aotearoa and a sovereign currency. We also have our modern day fiat currency, which operates in exactly the same manner. And our cousins in the South Pacific operate identical systems, including Australia, and in Samoa, the Samoan pala, and in Fiji, the Fijian dollar. In the Kingdom of Tonga, Pauna, and also in Papua New Guinea, the sovereign currency is the kina. All of these operate identically. So please review the differences between sovereign currency issuer and user. Mana Motuhake, establishment of self-resilience. Kingi Tawhia was our example, an exemplar. Harkening back to his tongi, mākua no hei hanga I tōku nei whare, I shall fashion my own house. Ko ngā paupau he mahue, he pātete, ko te tāhuhu he hina. The ridgepole will be of hino, the supporting posts of mahue and pātete. Me whakatupu ki te hua o te rengarenga, me whakapari ki te hua o te kawariki. Those who inhabit the house shall be raised on ringarenga and nurtured on kawariki. We can call this forward in modern times. And I'm grateful that our ariki, Kingi Tuheitia, has taken those whakaaro too and brought them forward in modern times for us. In his Tungikura Mana Motuhake, issued this very year in response to the COVID-19 situation. He says, ka pau ki au, tapu iwi ki te hua o te ringaringa, ka pūpuru kia mau ki te hua o te kawariki. My people will hold fast to the requirements of the ringaringa and the conditions of the kawariki. He's inviting us to hearken back to Kingi Tawhia and hold fast to that whakaaro, those thoughts from King Tawhia. Then he goes forward in our modern times to say, mā rātou anō, ā rātou whare Hei hanga, ko ngā pau o roto, he māhue, he pātete, ko te tāhuhu, he hino. They will fashion their own houses. The support posts within shall be made of mahue and pātete and the ridgepole from hino. I believe that this is a prophetic vision from Kingi Tuheitia. And as his ancestor, our ancestor, Kingi Tawhiao, in his time, Kingi Tuheitia is inviting us to continue to work with nature and to seek mana motuhake for ourselves and our own homes. Tēnā koe e te ariki. Pulling us forward to hold fast to the ringaringa and the kawariki, and to fashion our own houses for our own whanau. If we have strong whanau, we have strong marae. Strong marae, we have strong communities. Support posts of mahue, pātete, still the ridgepole, the strength, hino, through the centre. That we may raise our children to strive for mana motuhake, that they may stand on their own feet, to think independently, to be able to be resilient into the future. Nō reira, kia koutou katoa, ngā whanau, ngā mihi aroha kia koutou, ngā whanau pani. Ngā mihi aroha kia koutou, te hunga rawa koe. E aha koa te poto taku kōrero, kei roto tonu te ngākau. Nō reira, kia koutou katoa. Kia mau, kia u, ki te whakaaro o tātou Kingi Tuheitia. Kia mau, kia u, ki te whakaaro o tō tātou ariki. Tēnā koutou katoa. Rire hau. Paimarire.